Chapter 10. Life or Death.
There's no fucking way I'm doing that, Benny, Frost snapped. He's still alive.
Look at him, Frost, Benny pointed at Gearhead. Try and get him to respond. Frost rose and shook Gearhead. Hey, buddy. Buddy? Gearhead's head flopped around as if there were no neck muscles within it at all. Frost slapped him. First gently, then hard. There was no response, even as Frost started screaming into his ear. We can't kill him, declared Frost definitively. I didn't say kill him. I said burn him. Benny, what the fuck is wrong with you? It was trying to get inside him, Frost. Did you see it? It was trying to get inside you, too. You don't know that. If it came out a meter, the only logical step is to find something else to go inside of. Maybe it doesn't think with our logic. Something clanged against the bottom of the hatch, almost throwing Benny off. Gray tendrils slithered out from below it. Frost leapt forwards, hacking at them, beating them back down. The hatch shut again. At least tie him up, goddammit, Benny shrieked, as whatever it was banged on the hatch again. Frost nodded and scrambled towards the door at the back of the room. Out the door, his feet thudded down the metal hall. He burst into the supply bay and made a beeline for the large workbench set at the far end of it. The metal drawer squealed, and Frost's fingers dug through it in desperation. It was much weaker than it had realized. There were forces in this world it hadn't fully grasped, nor anticipated the threat. Somehow the electric had stung it, harmed it like nothing physical should be able to do. It was irrelevant, though, as it drank in the blood left on the floor. The relic made it uncomfortable, although it couldn't quite grasp why. It was connected to its home somehow. It could feel the relic's energy, but did not know how to consume it. For now it reserved to leave it how it was, without interacting at all. Slowly, the thing grew in size, pulsating like a tumor and spreading itself into the inner workings of the ship. This great mechanical beast would be its new host for the moment, and soon enough it would spread. Sitting in the corner, its essence spread through the vessel's arteries like cancerous blood cells. It watched. Something pricked at Frost's sixth sense, and he froze. There was a distinct feeling he was being watched, although from where he could not say. He looked behind him and saw nothing but empty vents, hanging cables, boxes, and a few stray tools. He turned back to the bench and pulled a package of zip ties and a roll of duct tape from it. He turned back and froze. The ventilation cover was missing. He was sure it had been on, though perhaps this was just due to the ship being rattled by all the events they had just escaped. But the covers were set on with thick bolts, and none of the others were missing. He shuddered and sprinted back into the main room. With no resistance whatsoever, they bound Gearhead both hands and feet. Slowly, Solomon was beginning to come to, stirring and groaning. "Benny?" Carolina called from the pilot's chair. "Yes, darling," Benny called back, looking nervously at Solomon. We're about to hit the atmosphere. You know I can't drive through it.
Benny muttered something under his breath, then looked at Frost. Buddy? Frost hefted Gearhead in his arms, and Benny scrambled out of the way. Frost dumped the soulless shell of his friend on top of the hatch. Benny sat down in the pilot seat and clutched the melted control stick. The ship rattled as it picked up friction, breaching the atmosphere. Solomon rose drunkenly and slumped into one of the seats. He sat in silence for a few moments while the wind roared around the ship. He felt in his pockets but couldn't find what he was looking for. "Got a cigarette, Frost?" Solomon asked, still half dazed. "Yeah," replied Frost. Frost sat down next to their leader and produced a pack of cigarettes from his breast pocket. There were two left, one flipped upside down so the ends stuck up. Frost took the flipped one while Solomon took the other. They both lit up and smoked in silence for a while. "I had such horrid dreams," said Solomon. "I wish it was a dream," Frost whispered. Solomon shook his head. "Not that." He took a long drag off his dart, exhaling through his nostrils. "I dreamed I was standing at parade rest again. Hours and hours. Another uniform and a sea of green uniforms. Then we took a shell and I was back in the trenches, tangled in barbed wire." "Chaos," observed Frost. "No, Frost. Order. When two orders get so big they start eating each other. War. War is the end result of order. Even the heavens had war, didn't they? Order and power always brings violence. But a world free of this. Solomon, you're fucking..." There came a pounding on the door leading to the cargo bay. A rhythmic thudding. Something slamming over and over into the metal door. The handle jiggled. Frost tensed up. "Who's that?" Solomon asked in a hushed whisper. "I don't know," replied Frost. Frost slowly drew his pistol and rose. Benny's eyes strained to try and glance at what was happening, but he kept a lock on the control stick as the craft descended. Solomon didn't move, but watched, fascinated. Frost put his hand on the doorknob, stilling it. There came a loud bang as a nearby vent cover was thrown from its position and sent into the adjacent wall. Solomon shrieked as a gray mass of limbs and tentacles dropped onto him. They forced their way into his mouth, up his nostrils, trying to find purchase in his tear ducts as he tried to peel the thing off of himself. Frost moved to help his leader, and the metal door to the cargo bay banged open. Tyr's corpse lurched forwards, clawing at Frost. Frost cried out, falling backwards, spending his magazine into the dead man's chest. Gore blew from the back of Tyr's torso, splattering the walls and flooring. Something wriggled beneath it all, running through the holes and flickering out like a parasitic infestation. Frost shrieked, scrambling away as the stumbling corpse moved towards him. With a wet snap, tentacles forced their way from Tyr's mouth, breaking his jaw and leaving it to hang limp. Solomon staggered upwards, trying to get the thing off of him. They careened towards the split electrical cable, and seemingly remembering earlier pain, the mass of gray flesh leapt from Solomon. The writhing bundle of limbs hit the ground, and wriggled towards Gearhead's still unresponsive figure. Frost surged up, charging at the corpse of Tyr. The corpse flailed wildly, the movements of a pilot who was no longer in control. One blow thudded into Frost's ribs, knocking the wind from him. The creature tried to wriggle away, but Frost kept pushing into the cargo bay. The ground was now less than a mile beneath them, as Benny struggled to maintain control amidst the chaos. The craft shuddered, and Benny felt the stick go loose as the power cut off. He screamed as the ship plummeted towards the ground. Carolina curled underneath the control panel as Benny braced for impact. Solomon watched in fascination as the newly birthed god wriggled into Gearhead's mouth. Gearhead made no movement as the last limb went past his lips, and within moments his body began convulsing. His neck twisted as if it had a mind of its own, awkwardly bending the head until the spine snapped. Any semblance of life left in Gearhead's eyes evaporated. He convulsed, vomiting blood and bile while his facial expressions perpetually changed. Then, as swiftly as it had all started, it all ended, and the man was still. The ship impacted into the ground, skidding, burrowing a trench into the earth as pieces and parts flew off of it. It spun, rolled, and flipped, shattering the windshield and loosing one of the jets from the back side of it. At length it came to a rest, billowing steam and electrical smoke as it lay dormant like a slain dragon. The silence of Terra 9 encompassed the scene. It knew not what the escape pod was, nor how to operate it, but it knew it was safe from memories it had consumed. It huddled into the small craft, neon yellow eyes bulging from across its half-liquid, half-solid form, leering at the world. It had taken another body, although it was forced to shrink its reach. This body of steel was broken, like the body of flesh before it. These things were of no use. It could detect a new presence, however, a presence glowing on the astral level. Other beings, much like itself, things scorned by the land of the foolish god, things with odd forms that dwelt on this planet. Order had brought these two back together, the order of synchronicities. These things would understand his plan, in spite of their wretched-looking forms. They were approaching even as these plans developed within its consciousness, panting across the planet. They understood something about the relic. They understood what its energy could do, and this would be integral to his plan. A family reunion of those born in the womb of the Jester. But before that, it knew it had to rid the ship of the parasites infesting it, the humans which had wounded it so. So it began to set about this task. The ship's abrupt landing had sent Frost tumbling. The room was a blur of crates and metal tools filtered through blunt force head trauma and pain. He'd blacked out, but now rose as consciousness gradually returned to him. He gripped stray wires on the wall and slowly rose. His ribs ached and he had a large gash on his left temple. Something throbbed just to the side of his chest, and it felt as though he'd taken the impact of a freight train to his gut. The cargo bay was a mess of pipe wrenches, hammers, small electrical switches, large crates, stray pipes, chemicals, oil spilled and sealed, a blowtorch, shattered supply crates, and some still intact MREs spilled all over the floor. Wires dangled from the walls. On one side, the ventilation had fallen. The cargo door was halfway open. Air rushed in from the open door. Frost scanned it all, looking for Tyr's possessed carcass. The broad-shouldered corpse rose, staggering and giving off low, gargling moans. Its neck was halfway torn, and odd gray tendrils jutted from it, seemingly strengthening the body the way they pulled on it. From a throat left exposed by a jawless mouth, a small and infantile head protruded, its 5 yellow eyes of varying sizes scanning the room as Frost was. Frost knew he had to act. The bandit stumbled forwards, and agony ripped through his body. Shards of pain exploded out from his chest, and he couldn't help but to cry out at the burning sensation. He staggered and clutched an overturned workbench for support. Looking down, he saw then a piece of metal pipe jutting from his chest like King Arthur's sword in the stone. He felt it then as he moved his arms, tearing in the ligaments of his right shoulder. Tyr's body lurched towards him. One leg of the corpse's reanimated form snapped inwards. The bone jutted from the knee. Tendrils slowly descended like tree roots, wrapping around the injured member and strengthening it. The corpse strode forwards now with a mechanical gait. Frost panicked, scrambling for some form of weapon. He snatched a pipe wrench off the top of a nearby box, brandishing it like some ancient warrior as the creature came closer. Frost struck first, pushing himself off the spot he rested and swinging with all his might. The pipe wrench struck Tyr's head, bending it farther, and leaving only a few stray cords of sinew to hold it onto the corpse. Frost went tumbling away, slamming into the ground and driving the metal through the back of his torso. He writhed like a worm in the sun, shrieking in pain through gnashing teeth. The creature spun, Tyr's lifeless face hanging upside down on the shoulder. It took one mechanical step towards Frost. Frost's hand scrambled for some kind of weapon. Pain shot through his upper body and into his face. He grabbed hold of something with a solid grip and held it out in the meager means of defense. Tentacles and deformed arms now came from the throat, slowly stretching towards Frost, feeling the air like snake tongues. Frost saw he was holding a small propane blowtorch. He squeezed the button, pressing it down and blasting a minuscule jet of blue flames. The tendrils and limbs seeping towards him suddenly hesitated, some even rearing back. Frost's eyes lit with a glimmer of hope. Using his legs only, Frost pushed himself backwards. The metal pipe jostled his flesh and bones, making an awful squealing noise on the metal floor below as it dragged along. His left hand fumbled through packages of MREs, broken planks of wood, tools, and then his prize. It was a metal canister of lubricant, intended to break through rusted bolts. The creature in Tyr's carcass lumbered forwards once more. A stream of lubricant shot out like piss, trickling over the tendrils and corpse. It took another step forwards. Frost ignited the blowtorch. Flames erupted, scorching the already dead flesh of Tyr and catching his clothes ablaze. There was an inhuman vibration, sound waves playing at unholy frequencies. Tentacles whipped to and fro as the flames leapt onto the creature and ignited it. The arms grasped at anything they could lay hold of, flinging tools, debris, and food in wild directions. The corpse slumped over, and after a few more moments of flailing, the blackened tentacles shuddered and ceased. They crawled over the rocks, the pale, misshapen lumps of flesh. It was calling to them, that wretched relic. The creatures inhabiting the large metal craft had no idea what they had, no idea of the power the relic possessed. It had pulled them, twisting and weaving strings of fate to bring them in. It had to be destroyed, while it inhabited a plane of existence where it could be blotted out, so none could touch it again. The ship was in view now, as the creatures crested a black and jagged ridge. They could see the ship, smoke still curling from its damaged form. They readied their weapons and moved forwards. Frost burst through the metal door and into the room, gas canister in hand. He began pouring gasoline. "Stop!" Solomon shrieked, leaping at Frost. The two collided, and Frost toppled over in agony, dropping the gas can in his hands. Gasoline spilled all over the floor, filling the room with its scent. Frost tried to pull himself up as Solomon began trying to wipe gasoline off of Gearhead. "They'll just take him if we don't. We need to make sure they can't get in his body. Fire!" Solomon cut Frost off. "He has already entered, Frost. He's learning, digesting the data from Gearhead's brain. Soon he will awake." Frost looked at Solomon, horrified. "What the fuck is wrong with you?" "Me? What's wrong with me?" "You idiot! You're all fucking idiots!" Solomon screamed. "Can you not see what this is? The birth of a new god. A new age dawns on mankind and you oppose it? You fools!" Carolina softly began trying to shake Benny awake, whispering into his ear while keeping one eye trained on Solomon. "Saul, what the fuck are you talking about? These things are taking our brothers' bodies and using them to try and kill us." "You are not my brethren," said Solomon. "You are nothing but underlings twisted by a delusion of self-importance, likely given to you by your own egos. You are nothing. You do not recognize our roles here." His eyes took on a star-struck tinge as he began speaking. "We are heralds, prophets, the mouthpiece of a new age whence cometh the jester, and you seek to suppress it?" "I don't want to suppress it, Saul. I want to fucking kill it." Solomon hawked and spit a glob directly into Frost's face. "Foolish heathen." "Fuck you," Frost said, fighting back tears as he half-heartedly kicked the gasoline towards Gearhead. The glob of phlegm ran down his cheek, sliding off his chin. More gas spilled onto the floor, but Solomon was no longer paying attention. Tendrils slowly crawled from between Gearhead's lips, like a hermit crab leaving its shell. They flicked along the ground, feeling, learning, before darting back betwixt his lips. Carolina, finding she was unable to wake Benny, slipped a hand into his pocket and withdrew his lighter. Solomon touched Gearhead's face, stroking it like a mother with her child as he whispered sweet nothings to the newborn deity housed within it. Frost stirred, trying to move but finding any movement unbearable. Darkness was beginning to close around his vision. Carolina stealthily crept towards Solomon. In a sudden burst of motion, Carolina dove forwards. The lighter sparked and flames erupted. A burst of heat hit the room, causing all present to immediately begin sweating. Gearhead began writhing, slimy gray tendrils suddenly bursting from his mouth in a desperate bid to escape. Carolina's hand was engulfed in flames, causing the skin to peel and blacken. Solomon fell backwards and began wailing like a mother cow separated from her calf. Frost heaved a sigh of relief and allowed the darkness to close around him. The room smelled of cooked meat, and flames still lapped up traces of gasoline on the floor while embers ate away at Gearhead's flesh. Solomon turned his tear-stained face towards Carolina, wrath penetrating every fiber of his being. Carolina shrank away, moving towards Benny. "You stupid, ignorant bitch," growled Solomon, rising and moving forwards. Carolina scrambled backwards, but Solomon pounced. His steel-toe boot cracked against her ribcage. She squealed. He snatched her up by her dreads, and her long painted nails shot out to claw at his face. He hit her, over and over, his fist disfiguring her scarlet lipstick and dark eyeliner, taking teeth, blackening her eyes, cutting her cheek until she no longer moved nor squealed. Solomon threw her away like trash, then gave one final stomp to her shriveled and scorched hand, breaking it entirely. He sank into one of the seats, cradling his head in his hands. "Stupid, stupid, stupid, stupid bitch," he muttered. Then he rose and stalked towards her again. One boot slammed into her stomach. "Fucking whore." He sank once more into the seat, and the ship regained silence. Only the groaning of settling metal dared penetrate the air. Solomon whispered unheard prayers.
This has been Void Wolves, written by Warren Walker and read by Warren Walker. Music, intro and outro, both by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. How's it going, everyone? The channel jumped up a little bit. It seems like in this last week or so, I wasn't really paying attention. I mean, to most people, 10 or so subscribers isn't big, but to me, that's kind of big. So, getting up there. Hopefully, I'll look back on this and be like, 10. Wow, you were really excited about going from 22 to 32, huh? But I'm just kind of recording this because I think the last 2 weeks I haven't recorded anything, and it's kind of seems like I'm developing a pattern of being late, and I really did not want to do that. And I'd love to excuse it with, it's this new job or whatever. But I mean, the truth of the matter is I've just been a little bit apathetic about this project. So, I mean, please forgive me on that front if you're still weekly listening to it, or this is still popping up in your recommended. I mean, we're almost to the end, and I get this way with a lot of my projects where I'm just like, I'm at the end, I don't want to fucking look at it. I don't know why I'm like that, but just how I wind up being. I think with this one, it's just I go back and I re-listen to it, and I'm like, wow, I could have done so much better. And, it's like I look at the stuff I've got now, and I'm like, even 1-2 projects ahead is still somehow improved over this, So, I don't know. Yeah, the new job's been going very good. I'm supposed to be seeing about a new cover on a book tomorrow. Or today, actually, because I've been up all night. So, yeah, in that book, I think I might have one round of editing. I'm going to do one more. It's on draft number, 6, 7. And after that, I'm going to start recording the audiobook, and you will be hearing about it very soon. I've got some marketing kinks to work out with it, but I mean, that's no big deal. That's just, you pay for ads, right? Maybe some of the people
retroactively listening to the series came off one of those ads. Wouldn't that be something? But yeah, I hope you all have a good week. Today marks the start of my work week, actually. But I'm not going in for another several hours yet. I've actually got to get to bed here pretty soon. As soon as I finish recording this, and I'm just going to set it to upload and then crawl over to my couch that's 2 steps away and pass out. So, good night or good morning, and God bless.